Welcome to Whisper and Dream, a place for calm minds and quiet stories. Tonight's tale is here to gently carry you into rest. If you enjoy these peaceful moments, feel free to like, subscribe, and let the next story find its way to you. Now take a deep breath and let's begin. The station was quiet. Only a handful of people waited beneath the pale glow of the overhead lamps. The cold air moved slowly, brushing past the columns, stirring the leaves in gentle circles. It was almost midnight, and he was alone. He stood near the edge of the platform, hands tucked into his coat pockets, scarf wrapped snugly around his neck. A soft fog hung in the air, making the lamps above look like distant moons floating in silence. From somewhere far down the track, a low hum began, the deep, rhythmic breath of a train approaching. Gradually, that hum became clearer, more familiar. The man closed his eyes for a moment, listening. He always loved that sound. The world was full of noise, but the sound of a night train was different. It didn't interrupt thought, it smoothed it out. It didn't demand attention, it whispered through the edges of awareness. Then came the light, a soft beam slicing through the fog. The headlight of the train glided into view, quiet and steady. Brakes hissed. Doors opened with a soft sigh. He stepped on board and found his seat, a window seat halfway down the carriage. The lights inside were low, casting a golden warmth that barely touched the walls. Only 3 other passengers were there. 2 had already leaned their heads against the glass, their eyes half closed. One sat curled up in a corner with a book in hand. He sat down and leaned into the chair. The cushions were firm but welcoming. Outside the window, the platform lights began to slide away. The train moved slowly at first, then gaining rhythm, like a heartbeat made of iron and time. He rested his head against a window. The glass was cool and slightly fogged. Beyond it, the night stretched wide, endless, dark, and gentle. He saw a sliver of moonlight shimmering over a frozen lake. A small barn in the distance, its roof dusted with snow. Trees swayed in slow motion, their branches whispering to the wind. The train curved through a field of soft hills, passing by shadows and stars. His eyes began to blur with drowsiness, and then a memory surfaced, not loudly, not suddenly, just softly, like the train itself. He was 7, maybe 8, and he was sitting in another train. Long ago. It was daytime, and the window was full of green. He remembered his grandfather, how he used to wear a heavy wool coat and always carried mints in his pocket. He would tap gently on the glass and point to the cows grazing in the fields. "Look," he would say, "every time you see a white cow, you make a wish." So he did. And even though he could never remember what he wished for, the act itself became the memory. In that old train, he had leaned back into his grandfather's coat and fallen asleep to the rhythm of the rails, just like now. He smiled faintly, still looking out at the dark countryside. Now, instead of cows, there were shadows of tall pine trees. Instead of sunshine, there were stars. Thousands of them, scattered across the deep blue sky. He blinked slowly. The carriage was quiet. One of the overhead lights had dimmed even further. The soft hum of the heating system blended into the background like a lullaby. A gentle knock brought him back for a moment. "The conductor?" "Ticket, please," came a kind voice. He handed it over. A brief smile. A quiet "thank you." The conductor disappeared down the aisle, shoes making the softest sound against the carpeted floor, and then stillness again, not the absence of sound, but the fullness of quiet. The man breathed slowly, in and out. The world outside moved gently past him. A narrow bridge, a frozen stream, a glowing porch light in a distant farmhouse. Everything was soft. Everything felt distant, but safe. The rhythm of the train grew quieter in his mind. The memory of his grandfather faded slowly, not lost, but wrapped like a blanket around his thoughts. And as his body relaxed, his eyes finally closed. His breath became deeper. The sounds blended together, the hum of the engine, the pulse of the tracks, the slow sigh of the heater, all becoming one. Outside the window, the trees continued to pass. The stars continued to shine, and the train moved steadily through the night, carrying him gently into sleep.